Hello, welcome to Shrewsbury Film Society's online film club. For this week's film, we've selected the Japanese family drama Harmonium. Now, that title Harmonium might hint at harmony, but in fact the Japanese title of this film, which translates approximately as Standing on the Edge, probably gives a more accurate sense of the film's mood, and maybe Disharmonium could have been a better English title, since one critic described the film's director, Koji Fukada, as, quotes, one of the cinema's most exacting purveyors of domestic disequilibrium. This film fits into the rather extensive Japanese genre of family dramas, some of which we've shown at the Hive over the last few years. Most obviously, there's the gentleness of many of Yasujiro Ozu's family dramas, particularly the well-known Tokyo Story. And more recently, we've shown a number of films by the contemporary director Hirokazu Koreeda, Like Father, Like Son, Shoplifters, which was exceptionally popular last year, I Wish, and several others. Koji Fukuda, perhaps surprisingly, has actually said that he's been very influenced by the films of Eric Rohmer, and he's singled out, believe it or not, The Green Ray, which by coincidence was one that we watched together a couple of months ago. I suppose that Fukuda was influenced by Rohmer's emphasis on the domestic, on straightforward cinematography, and on plots that advance largely through people talking. But the result here in this 2017 film by Fukuda, which was actually his fifth feature film, really is light years away from Rohmer. The style is much more austere, the action when it comes is much more intense, and the format overall is altogether much more controlled and formal. Indeed, overall it seems to me that Fukuda's style here actually bears more resemblance to that of another great French filmmaker, Robert Bresson, rather than to Eric Rohmer. Because Bresson had quite an austere, pared-down style, whereas Rohmer's is much more freewheeling and improvisatory. In fact, one of Bresson's films, this one here, L'Argent, or Money, he summarized in the phrase, "A minor transgression produces a vertiginous avalanche of evil." And one could actually say something similar about Harmonium. For almost its full 2-hour running time, this is a very subdued, plain film, in fact, which has almost no music on its soundtrack. Even though it's set in a city, it has almost nobody else or no traffic or much evidence of human life visible even in the background. It has a very subdued colour palette, a lot of greys and a lot of rather washed out colours. It has a largely static camera and it has almost no close-ups. And yet, almost miraculously, it is completely gripping from the very opening scene. One immediately senses that the director's very tight control of every aspect of the film, the composition, the colour scheme, the measured words and movements of the characters. They must all serve some higher purpose. And when the plot twists come, they are really extraordinary and overwhelming. Even though the film has a 12 certificate, I think you are sure to be shocked at least twice by what happens, even though nothing terrible happens on screen and there is no musical climax at all. Like Michael Haneke, Fukuda seems to extract the maximum amount of emotion from the minimum use of cinematic elements, and it's a really remarkable skill, and it's a remarkable feeling to be pulled in by it. Fukuda has made about half a dozen other films, and they apparently include a comedy. Unfortunately, none of them seem to be available on DVD with English subtitles or on any streaming service. He's also been active in trying to support art house cinema in Japan, campaigning for funding for the independent cinemas over the last few months as they struggle in the face of coronavirus. We really hope you're as gripped by this film as we have been, and we look forward to discussing it with you on Zoom shortly.